everybody. Welcome. Here we go. Happy Thursday. It is Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also now on Comcast Channel 6 if you are in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Thursday, August 17, 2023. So nice to have you all with me. By the way, we have a great musical guest coming up later in the show at the top of the hour at 5 p.m. Eastern. We will be joined by Goose Spread, a great and fascinating acoustic duo from Ohio. They've got a concept album. It's a little dark. But I had to make a couple of radio edits, in fact. That's how dark it is to play on the show. But we'll feature some of their music later, and then those guys are going to be Skyping in at 5 p.m. And really looking forward to speaking with them. Goose Spread coming up today on the program. It is Thursday, by the way, but no entertainment report, although I do see him in the Facebook live chat, EZG. He did message me and wanted to know if he could do an entertainment report on Friday this week because he has an appointment. I said, that is fine. But speaking of Friday, so some programming notes about tomorrow's show. That song that you just heard, Love and Understanding, that is the first single from House Lights. Their third single, No Longer Myself, drops tonight at midnight, and we're going to do a world radio premiere for that song tomorrow. So it'll be available tonight. I know it's going to iTunes tonight at midnight. You'll be able to get it. But if you want to hear it for the first time on FM radio here in the United States, tune into this show tomorrow. It will be the world radio premiere of the new single from House Lights and our very talented friend, Sam Beechard, who's also a local promoter. Sam does a lot of stuff. Great guy and very, very talented. So we're going to give that the world radio premiere tomorrow on the program. And then on Monday, those guys are going to be here to perform live for us, acoustic, in the second hour. So we're kind of making it a 2-day event. But yeah, their album, actually, not just the new single, but their entire album is out, coming out on September 1st, What It Means to Feel. But that song we played was the first single from it, Love and Understanding, a great, great track. And they've had a second single as well. No Longer Myself will be the third single. So that hits tonight at midnight, and then we'll be playing that tomorrow. So also, of course, tomorrow we have Eric Pilcher's classic film review. And this week the subject is The French Connection. So lots going on. William Friedkin, of course, just passed away recently. Also the director of The Exorcist, which is what he's most well known for. But Eric decided you might as well, I think in the conversation that we had about William Friedkin recently, not this week, he was on with me yesterday, but I think we talked about William Friedkin the previous week. He had said that The French Connection was probably his Friedkin's second most famous film. So that will be the film review for tomorrow. So lots going on, but we will have Goose Spread with us at the top of the hour, Skyping in from Ohio. And I just got an alert on my phone because I forgot to mute my phone, which is very unusual. I'm usually pretty good about that, but every once in a while I do forget. The studio line is open if you'd like to join us today, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. Speaking of calling, you should definitely call ahead if you plan to, check out this segue, if you plan to participate in Trivia Night at the Hop Knot, our amazing sponsor right across the street at 1000 Elm Street. And to do that, you should call 603-232-3731 because Trivia Night is a very popular feature at the Hop Knot, and those spots do fill up quickly. This is what Kenny posted on social media. Tonight, Trivia at the Hop Knot is on per usual. Call ahead if you'd like to reserve a table. Some of this week's categories include snakes, Tunisia, Maryland, Sesame Street cred, poison in pop culture, and more. The game will start at 7 p.m. sharp. And that, of course, is hosted by the great Broderick Lang. But yeah, you do want to call ahead, 603-232-3731. You know, unless you're just going to go, I mean, you could always go and not necessarily participate in trivia, but enjoy some delicious gourmet pretzels or the ever-burgeoning assortment of craft beer. But yeah, trivia does fill up quickly there at the Hop Knot. Let's say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat, and then we'll get into some stuff. I see Miriam Banish joins us in the chat and says, good afternoon from Pineville, North Carolina. Or should I say, good afternoon, hashtag Matt Connarton, I say to you. Is that a North Carolina thing? I think that's only if you're in Greensboro, Miriam. If you're in Greensboro, North Carolina, you speak that way, I believe. Miriam also says, our trip has not been quite as we hoped thanks to COVID. I blame anti-vaxxers and COVID deniers. It's been 10 days and we probably are not contagious. But we also don't want to take chances with medically fragile family members. So it's visits through windows. Yeah, I don't blame you, Miriam. Better to err on the side of caution. It's going to be, as I've said on the show many times, COVID, unfortunately, I think is going to be with us for the rest of our lives. And obviously it's, we're past the pandemic phase of it. So it's at a manageable level. And as I heard one epidemiologist say not long ago, at this point, with the treatments and therapeutics that are available, like Paxlovid, for example, and some other things, no one at this point, even with underlying conditions, no one should be dying from COVID. But hospitalizations are up, and it's they're talking about this winter. It's going to be, a triple threat, COVID, RSV, and the flu. So, get vaccinated get vaccinated. That's my message. And if you're a regular, longtime listener, that's always been my message. Medical science is your friend. Weird conspiracy theory websites or YouTube videos by people who just make stuff up. Information you get from that is not your friend. Actual medical science is your friend. Listen to epidemiologists and virologists and immunologists if you want to know what's going on. And that's what they're warning about this winter. Take care of yourselves. Don't listen to, some of the people Joe Rogan has had on. Don't listen to RFK. He's a little out there with the things that he says about it. So that's my advice. So I join you in that, Miriam, in terms of whom you blame. I do not disagree. Tom Blanchard joins us in the Facebook live chat and says, bonjour. Oui, Tom. It's about all the French I know. Oui. Easy G says, you some of birches. Yes, we do have trees, certainly. That's New Hampshire. Oh, Easy G is putting together his report tonight. Oh, that's great. Easy G, by the way, if I could just, since you're in the Facebook live chat and you can't hear us, as you're putting together your report, if I could just make a request, I feel that your entertainment report, I think it needs a little bit more April Cushman, Amanda McCarthy, and Katie Dobbins. I feel like those are three entertainers who get left out. I think you should include more of them in your report. Let's see. Tom Blanchard says they're still saying COVID is the 5th largest killer. Yeah, I believe that. There's still a lot of people who just refuse to take it seriously. And again, obviously the pandemic is over, certainly, but you should still take it seriously and protect yourself and protect others in the process. Jenny says, shalom, peeps. She is in the chat room, as well as Rhonda Favero, of course, from the great state of California. All right, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007 is the studio line. A media item that I wanted to, I see Mike from Queen City Cabinetry joins us in the Facebook live chat as well and says, hello, everyone. Queen City Cabinetry, of course, one of our great sponsors here at WMNH 95.3. And Mike is also one of our co-hosts on Friday nights. Tomorrow's Friday, my favorite day of the week here at WMNH. Friday nights for Retro Spectrum Radio with Pauly C. And speaking of sponsors, yesterday I got to meet for the first time. Hard to believe I hadn't met him yet in person. Greg Joseph popped in from Clemento's, another one of our great sponsors here at WMNH. Clemento's Pizzeria. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know all of the words. Clemento. But I know the Clemento's Pizzeria part. See, that's the hook. You know, when you're writing a song, that's the hook. Chris Rose from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is in the chat room. Hi, Chris. A media item that, because that's usually what we talk about with our friend Eric Pilcher, my favorite conservative, on Wednesdays. We talk about things in the media, but yesterday we got into, did kind of a deep dive on, you know, he's in Iowa. He's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So he's at, you know, he's on the ground, as they say, for the Iowa caucus, which is the first in the nation event in the 2024 election. Oh, hello to Chris from Edgewise, who joins us in the Facebook live chat as well. Hi, Chris. Great band from the area. And by the way, Chris, I do know I have a message from you. I will get back to you, I promise. And I'm sorry for the delay. There's reasons, but I will get back to you, sir. And yes, I do want to work with you on that. Okay. Yesterday, we didn't get to it, but we were talking about the Iowa caucus, and they just had the Iowa State Fair, which is where the candidates show up, and even Trump showed up. Not that he needed to. Again, he's going to be the nominee. That is inevitable. But we talked about that quite a bit, and we got into some other things, and so we never got to this, but, you know, I'm always interested when, regardless of who it is, regardless of whether I like them or not, regardless of whether I'm a fan of their content or not, or I agree politically or don't, I'm always fascinated by things going on in media, particularly deplatforming, which is a term that really hasn't been with us for that long, less than a decade, I think, if we've been talking about deplatforming, where people are restricted from certain platforms in terms of disseminating their message and their content. And, you know, I've talked about my own struggles with YouTube, even though I'm not ideologically controversial in that sense. I certainly don't violate any of their terms of service. And yet I've been flagged on occasions in an unfair way, I feel. But this just happened. So apparently Glenn Beck is the latest to experience something, but this is very strange, actually. So Deadline is reporting Apple Podcasts removes 1,900 Glenn Beck episodes from the platform and then restores them. 1,900. Now, the last time I heard about somebody having a lot of their episodes removed was, well, actually, when Joe Rogan first went to Spotify. Spotify started, but they didn't wipe out. I don't think Spotify wiped out a lot of his catalog at once, but they sort of, you know, picked as they went along. Okay, this episode's a little controversial. This episode's too much, or editing certain episodes. But apparently Glenn Beck had 1,900 of his episodes removed, but then they reappeared. It says here, conservative media mogul Glenn Beck has had his Apple Podcast account restored after seeing his entire 1,900 episode trove deleted. Apple Podcasts removed his show from the platform without any warning or reason earlier in the day, he claimed. And by the way, that's something I can relate to. Even people who aren't content creators, if you're on Facebook, for example, if you've ever been in Facebook jail, you know, and you get something that restricts you, either you're restricted from posting or you're not restricted from posting necessarily, but you're restricted from doing certain things on Facebook, whatever it may be, and you're going, well, what did I do? I don't know what I did. And sometimes they tell you, sometimes they let you twist in the wind. Oh, Paulie C is in the Facebook live chat and says, greetings, big fan. 70s chill tomorrow night on Retro Spectrum Radio, 8 p.m. Eastern. Excellent, excellent. But yeah, so apparently, according to Glenn Beck, they just removed 1,900 episodes, his whole catalog, and didn't tell him why. In a video posted to X, formerly Twitter, on Wednesday, Beck said that the Glenn Beck program vanished without explanation. He posted, quote, all of my podcasts have been removed from Apple iTunes with no explanation, unquote. Apple sent a message that said, quote, we found an issue with your show, the Glenn Beck program, which must be resolved before it's available on Apple Podcasts. Your show has been removed from Apple Podcasts, unquote. Now, one thing that does surprise me a little bit about that, and I don't know, I have not ever run afoul of Apple Podcasts, so I don't know. I would think, though, that somebody like Glenn Beck, who obviously is very famous and is and has an enormous audience, I would have assumed that he would get more from them than just, hey, we found an issue with your show, and until it's resolved, we can't put your stuff back up. Because I know, for example, if you're a content creator on YouTube, for example, and you run afoul of something on YouTube and they strike your channel, I don't mean strike it as in strike it like it goes away. I just mean they put a strike on your channel, and then maybe you can't upload anything for a couple of weeks, or they suspend your channel, or they wipe it out completely if they do that. And I know people to whom this has happened. If you are famous enough, if you have a large enough audience on YouTube, you do get a certain degree of access that someone like me, for example, does not get. You know, when I've run afoul of something on YouTube and I get a strike, and then I do the appeal, the strike, I assume, the strike is always unfair. Now, of course, I'm going to say that I'm biased. I'm talking about me and my content. But the strike is always unfair. I get strikes for things that I wasn't actually doing, but a bot picked up on something. I assume it's a bot. I assume there's not an actual human being sitting there listening to everything. A bot picks up on something and says, oh, we don't like this, and flags it, and then I get a strike. And then I appeal the strike, hoping that at least the appeal will be reviewed by an actual human. But that doesn't happen either, apparently. It's just another bot. I mean, it's so bad. I know, boy, talk about first world problems, right? But I talked about this on the show. Some of you might remember a number of months ago, I talked about how I had just gotten a YouTube strike for misinformation about the 2020 election, which, by the way, they've since changed that policy. Now they don't care what you say about the 2020 election, but for a long time they had strict rules about you could not say that the election was rigged, which I never said anyway. I always refute all that nonsense, but I got a strike for it. But listen to this. So I got a strike for spreading, before they changed the policy, I got a strike for actually spreading misinformation about the 2020 election on a video that was posted in 2017. And I was sure, okay, this appeal I should win. And I wrote the appeal, and I just said, you know, I know, keep it terse. I did win one appeal once. Usually I lose. I did win one. But it wasn't this one. This one should have been a layup. Hey, guys, I couldn't have even spoken about the 2020 election at all, aside from perhaps making predictions, because it was 2017, and I'm not a time traveler. I didn't put the time traveler part in the appeal. You never want to be sarcastic. You want to be polite and professional. They denied the appeal. So that strike is, you know, stayed on my account. But if you're famous, you know, usually you get some sort of direct access and you can work stuff out. You get to talk to an actual human. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being so famous you get to talk to an actual human being? Huh. Anyway, but Apple, I guess Glenn Beck isn't famous enough for Apple to care more than to send him that simple message. So according to this, again, this is from Deadline.com, Beck added that Apple, quote, sent us a link and said, for more details, go to the link. And then the link only says, your show has been removed from Apple Podcasts. Well, we got that one, dummy, unquote. Beck claimed he never received a strike. Quote, I cannot imagine what they are, basing this on one, this is crazy, crazy. There's nothing that we have said that would warrant any removal. And then the Deadline story is incomplete because it says right in the headline of the story that the podcast was restored, but the rest of the story is not there. So let's see what this says. We'll go over to Mediaite. Now, this is a little different. Mediaite says, they deplatformed me. Glenn Beck goes off on Apple for temporarily pulling his podcast catalog, bashes company, chalking it up to a trademark dispute. Does he talk about it here? Wait, we have some audio. I'm curious what he said about this. Let's see. Get the audio here.
Apple restored the episodes to their platform yesterday. In case you haven't heard, Apple totally deplatformed me yesterday at about noon. They removed every last episode from Apple Podcasts. It was removed with no explanation why for several hours.
By the way, Glenn Beck has one of those voices that I'm very jealous of. He does. He's got one of those. He's just got a fantastic radio voice. I don't agree with him politically. You know, I'm not a conservative, but I've always been very envious of his voice. That's why he actually started out in morning radio, and and then became a political commentator. I don't know his entire career trajectory, but I've always been very jealous of his voice. He's got a great voice. You know, I've always been I think I'm pretty objective to the extent that it's possible to be about my own voice. You know, people tell me, Matt, you have a great voice. No, I don't. I have a good radio voice, but I know the difference. I have a good radio voice. Glenn Beck has a great radio voice.
As soon as I heard the news, I posted a video to Twitter or X or whatever. I asked you to join me in demanding answers from Apple. Well, thankfully, a lot of people came out in force.
Yeah.
We were trending on X all day with people on both the left and the right calling Apple out. I was so happy to see so many people on the left who would post. I totally disagree with him.
Paul's asking in the chat room, Paulie C, how's mine? You've got a great radio voice, Paul, because your voice is deep. You and Peter White, if we were talking about WMNH radio personalities, you and Peter White, I think, both have great voices. Peter White's got like a perfect morning show voice. You've got a great voice, Paul. Kyle Heavey, I would put him in the same category as me. We don't have great voices, but we have good voices. Rob Azevedo, I would put in the same category. He's got a very, he's got a very New England affectation, but I would say he's got a good radio voice. Rob Dion might be great, actually. He's got a really good, I'm going to say Rob Dion, I think, has a very good radio voice. I'd put him above myself, but I wouldn't call it great. But, trying to think, am I missing anybody? I think that's everybody, right? When Ben Dion still did a show here, I would say he had a good radio voice. But no, Paul, you and Peter White, you have great radio voices. I mean, like Glenn Beck level. Well, maybe not Glenn Beck level. I mean, Glenn Beck's radio voice is perfect. Perfect.
This is wrong. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. So thank you if you did any of it, because after 6 hours of you raising all kinds of ruckus online, Apple restored my show to their platform. Well, 1,915 episodes of 3,000 plus catalog. So they removed at least a decade worth of content yesterday without explanation. At least until we started making noise about it. Today, I read an article in Variety that said the podcast was removed because of a trademark dispute. And, quote, it has since been resolved. Really? Really? A trademark? Wow. Over 3,000 episodes, all over a trademark issue. That is weird.
By the way, I have a theory, but I'll wait till the end of his comments on it before I tell you what it is. Oh, hello to JFed in the Facebook live chat from the great state of Vermont.
I'm going to get into the weeds over this, but there was a trademark dispute on one episode. They let us know on, I think, on June 29th. It was resolved within hours. We're like, not really. Now, if that is the reason, that's one episode. We resolved it with them within hours. Why would you remove over 3,000 episodes for a dispute with one?
It's a great question.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now my theory. My theory is there was no reason and that it literally was a glitch. I think it was just a glitch. Not the most satisfying answer. I'm surprised, though. Now, I maybe I shouldn't be, but I am surprised that Glenn Beck is not gone Maybe it's still coming. There's still a couple minutes left in this clip. I'm surprised that he hasn't gone with Apple's gone woke and they don't like us anymore. And then they just caved to public pressure to put those episodes back. But they've gone woke and they're against us. And that's why they did this to us. But the public outcry made them reverse course. But he hasn't done that. But maybe that's yet coming. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I think it was a glitch. How else do you explain it? I mean, it does happen. Things just go wrong sometimes.
Unless you were the one filing the dispute saying, someone's using my name, there's no real reason to pull the episodes down.
Don't pull those. Yeah, no, of course not. Doesn't explain why they would remove the entire catalog. At least to me, it doesn't. Apple still has not responded to that. Yesterday is a prime example where I learned firsthand why the Blaze is so important. I learned the power of these middlemen. If you're a conservative, the threat of deplatforming is always there, even in the background, like the sword of Damocles. Is that how you say his name? Damocles?
Damocles.
Do you remember the guy who's holding the sword over the head? This is why
it's a sword of Damocles.
We built the Blaze. I'm not going to have a sword over my head. Not going to do it. Companies like Apple and Google and Meta can shut down your speech, our speech, literally with a keystroke.
So, yeah, he is sort of going, he took the long way around. But he is sort of going that way, right? Saying, playing the I'm a victim of having my First Amendment violated. But again, as I always say on the show, see, when I talk about my own problems, the only platform I've ever had an issue with multiple times is YouTube, and having content removed and for reasons that I felt were unfair. But what have you never heard me say? As much as I might complain about YouTube and their arbitrary policies and the enforcement of them in a very odd and unfair way at times, what have you never heard me say? You've never once heard me say, YouTube has violated my First Amendment, because they have not. Have they censored me in some way? Sure. But they haven't violated my First Amendment. I still have a First Amendment right to say whatever I want to. YouTube has a First Amendment right, or Apple Podcasts or any other platform. They have a right to make decisions about what can and cannot go on their platforms. And they have a right to make whatever rules they like. So it's not, and it's not, look, I'm not a conservative, but again, I've had my content censored. It's not about censoring conservatives, not from my vantage point. It just so happens that the things, we live in a time when some of what you hear in conservative content, whether it be the anti-vaxxer COVID denier stuff that Miriam was referring to, that she's, having to deal with on this trip, or misinformation about the 2020 election, there are some things that have certain consequences. Now, YouTube, interestingly enough, and I referred to this a few minutes ago, YouTube actually reversed their position on 2020 misinformation. And I heard, I forget what show it was. I heard them talking about it. Oh, yes. I remember now. It was the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet-David, his show, and his guest was Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. And they were talking about this reversal in position. And they both had theories on why YouTube reversed that position. So now you can go on YouTube and talk about the 2020 election and say that you agree that it was stolen. You can do that now, whereas before you could not. Patrick Bet-David's, and he's a conservative, or he's an independent, but he's a right-leaning guy. Although I think on some social issues he's kind of left, so he might be. I guess he's kind of center-right, but on economic issues he's definitely a conservative. And he buys into some right-wing conspiracy theories too, unfortunately. But so I've mixed feelings about him. Some of what I think he repeats is actually genuinely dangerous. Okay, but his theory was, just telling you, if you don't know who he is, although his podcast is getting really, really big. So if you haven't heard of him and you pay attention to online media, you will hear of him. But his theory was that, YouTube was just caving to pressure from conservatives who spoke up and said, this isn't right. You're censoring us. But Cenk Uygur's position was that, not really that different a theory, but basically that, this has become the mainstream Republican position. And if you look at polling data, there is, I think his theory is valid that, if that's the mainstream Republican position, if something like, I saw a poll recently, I think 70% of Republicans actually do believe the election was stolen. If that's the mainstream position and you're going to strike everybody off of your platform who says that, you're not going to have any Republicans left. And then he also mentioned Rumble, how a lot of people. Okay, now I'm not sure now. I'm trying to remember which one of them. One of them said, well, what about Rumble? Oh, I think it was Patrick Bet David who said, what about Rumble? You've got all these people leaving YouTube and going to Rumble for that reason. And then Cenk replied something like, well, yeah, but Rumble's a non-factor. Rumble is only 1/8, if that much, is the size of YouTube, and it's never going to catch up. So Rumble's not really a factor. My theory about it is they just ran into a problem where people like me who talk about the 2020 election but actually refute the what I feel is a completely, not evidence-based idea that the election was stolen. So people who speak against that, but who get caught up by the bots, if I quote something that Rudy Giuliani said, and then a bot at YouTube hears that in my content, and then the bot says, oh, he's saying the election was stolen, we got to flag him. I think that was causing problems for YouTube. That's my theory, because it couldn't have just been me. And again, if you're famous and you're on YouTube, you can do what I just described, because you're going to get a pass no matter what, and you're going to have actual humans reviewing your content and saying, oh, okay, if somebody like the Young Turks, who are like the biggest YouTubers of all time, I don't know if that's still the case now. It may not be, but 10, 15 years ago, the Young Turks was the largest, most viewed YouTube channel in history. That may have held up. I don't know. But, if you're famous, you can do whatever, and you'll get an actual human reviewing your content. But I think the system that they have in place with bots reviewing things, too many people were probably getting caught up in that. They're talking about the 2020 election. They're not making false claims, but the bot doesn't know that. The bot hears you quoting something somebody else said, like Rudy Giuliani or Steve Bannon or something, and then the bot says, oh, we got a problem here, got to flag this. That's my theory. But it's not a violation of anyone's First Amendment rights. And, you take the risk in terms of the content you put out there. All right, there's a little bit more to this. Glenn Beck talking about his.
The elites have always wanted to control what you see and what you hear. Now, big tech is giving them the means to do it. They have done this.
Oh, he's doing the Steven Crowder routine now.
To several of us. Since the Republicans have had Congress, they've been a little more shy. But I will tell you, yesterday would have been a loss of about 3 million views. If you're not getting the podcast.
But see, now he's contradicting himself, though, isn't he? Because wasn't he saying, he was saying before, this is why the Blaze is so important, his platform. This is why the Blaze is so important. Because I'm not going to have the sword of Damocles, or how did he pronounce it? It's the sword of Damocles or something. I'm not going to have the sword of Damocles over my head, so that's why I have the Blaze. So I don't have to worry about being deplatformed. But then he's saying that there was a serious consequence between being deplatformed, which again, he really wasn't. It was, I still think it was a glitch. But see, he's going with that spin. All the elites are trying to censor us. The elites are trying to silence us. When in reality, if that were true, Glenn Beck, wouldn't Apple just kick you off? Who's silencing you? How are they silencing you? 1,900 of your episodes disappeared, but then they were restored. And they're too embarrassed to admit they made a mistake, probably. Yeah. Who knows if an actual human being even got involved in the process at any point? It could have all just been AI. But he's giving his audience what they want to hear.
From Apple, if that's where you normally go, there's about 3 million people that do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. That's a real problem if we lose touch with 3 million people.
Yeah, but if they care about your content that much, won't they just find it someplace else, like The Blaze? I don't know. Just wondering. All right, we'll move on from that. But 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007 is the studio line. If you would like to join us, Melanie La Liberty has joined us in the chat room and says, hey, guys, who knows that Glenn Beck isn't a robot? That's true. Glenn Beck could be a cybernetic organism of some kind. We should look at, this is something kind of a big subject. We might have to, we have a musical guest joining us at the top of the hour, so we might have to start this and then finish it in the second hour because there's a lot to this. But, yeah, actually, we'll come back to this. I'm going to hit this in the second hour, I think, after our, probably in the last half hour, after we talk to our musical guest. There's something going on in New York where you've got Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, is fighting with the governor, Kathy Hochul. And it reminds me of, there's a little bit of history repeating, because when Bill de Blasio was mayor of New York, he was fighting, a Democrat. He was fighting with the Democratic governor at the time, Andrew Cuomo. Actually, let's go ahead and dive into this now. I don't want to wait. And this has to do with migrants. Migrants being put on buses and sent to New York City and other cities as well. But apparently, so you've got these, this is something that they never expected to be dealing with, but you've got the mayor, Eric Adams, fighting with Kathy Hochul, the governor, over this. And the latest in this, if you haven't been following the story, and I was listening in the car earlier, I heard Dan Abrams talking about this on satellite radio, and his take on it was really interesting. But Politico reports Hochul alleges lack of coordination by Adams as state defends New York City migrant response. A 12-page letter from Hochul's attorney is the governor's response to requests that Adams formally made a week earlier for more state intervention. By the way, Paulie C says in the chat room, I just made fresh taco meat and poured it all over a pile of Fritos. And now I'm going to eat like I'm getting the electric chair in an hour? That doesn't sound healthy, Paul. I hope you're still alive tomorrow night for Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. After you consume that. I'm not entirely certain that you will be, but I hope that you are. It says here, Governor Kathy Hochul's attorney is alleging a lack of coordination and communication from New York City Mayor Eric Adams over handling of the city's influx of migrants and is defending the state's efforts. The latest rift among Democrats over how to address the crisis. In a letter late Tuesday to a judge overseeing a court case to ensure homeless people have shelter, Hochul's office outlined an array of steps it has taken or sought to offer the city to deal with the surge in asylum seekers, but also rebuked the city's push that the state needs to do more. So the state's new counsel, Faith Gray, in a document on Wednesday said, quote, in particular, the city chose to send migrants to counties and localities outside of the city with little or no notice to or coordination with the state or those counties and localities, unquote. That stands out to me because if that is true, that would make New York City Mayor Eric Adams a bit of a hypocrite, because if you remember when DeSantis in Florida and Abbott in Texas, when they started putting asylum seekers on buses and shipping them, which, again, I vehemently oppose because I see it as a cheap political stunt, and you're using human beings as pawns, and I disagree with it. But when they started doing that, one of the things that Eric Adams and mayors of other cities too, but I remember Mayor Eric Adams of New York, he said specifically, he said, look, we don't mind you sending people here. They're welcome here. But you have to tell us. You have to give us a heads up. Tell us these people are coming so that we know that they're coming. We know how many people are coming, and so that we have services ready for them when they get here. That was his statement at the time. And this has been going on for more than a year at least, right? So at least in the beginning, that was his statement. I think now his statement is, please stop. But he said, let us know that they're coming. Don't just send them without telling us. But if what the state is saying, if what Faith Gay, who's the counsel for the state, if what she's saying is true, what she's saying about Mayor Eric Adams, then he's doing the same thing that he said, don't do to us. Says here, Deputy Mayor Fabian Levy said the Adams administration is reviewing the state's letter. He added, quote, but because this is such a significant crisis, we need more, including more space around the state and a statewide order that bars localities from passing ordinances that prevent asylum seekers from being relocated to other parts of New York State, unquote. Adams, meanwhile, said the city and state would continue to work together, refraining from criticizing Hochul's efforts. Adams later told reporters yesterday, quote, we are really pleased with the relationship we have with this governor. Unlike some of the tension with other administrations, we, the governor and I, have constantly talked about our coordination. So if her observation is that here's some things that you can do differently, we're all in, unquote. I don't know. It doesn't sound like they're on the same page to me. If the governor's office is making statements saying that the city isn't holding up their end here. Gay and her private law firm replaced Attorney General Tish James in representing the state after James took the unusual step to not defend the state, citing a philosophical difference over the state's contention that a right to shelter regulation that requires housing for the homeless in the city doesn't apply statewide. The 12-page letter is Hochul's response to requests that Adams formally made a week earlier for more state intervention in a letter obtained by Politico. The court fight is the first evidence of what appears to be a behind-the-scenes tussle between the city and state over how to handle the issue. Adams and Hochul have stressed publicly that they are working collegially to address the problem as the city faces an overrun of its shelter system, and as Adams has shipped migrants to other parts of New York, often to the disapproval of local leaders. Well, he is in a tough spot. I have sympathy for him. He's in a tough spot, but at the same time, you got to at least, are there not other localities in the state of New York who are willing to cooperate? Is there something that the state of New York can be doing? Maybe Eric Adams is right. Maybe the state's not doing enough. Is there something the state can be doing to help maybe incentivize some of these localities to want to take these people who Eric Adams is sending from New York? The document detailing state funding and resources for support of migrants comes as pressure intensifies on the Hochul administration to do more for Adams's team. The city's shelters and emergency housing system has buckled under the weight of the nearly 100,000 migrants who have arrived since last spring. So in less than a year, 100,000 migrants. Elected officials, community advocates, and business groups have joined in a course of demands for more federal and state aid to the city, though the calls for President Joe Biden to expedite work authorization are by far the loudest. And that's something, too, that Mayor Eric Adams has said. So actually, Eric Adams not only has, he denies that there's fighting, but not only does he have an issue with the state's response, but he also has an issue with the federal response, because he also has said the Biden administration isn't doing enough to get, things like work visas approved for these migrants. So he's at odds with the Biden administration as well. And I don't know. Look, it's like I said to somebody yesterday on the phone who called the show. We need migrants. Employers need more workers in this country. But we have to get all this figured out. And obviously we need comprehensive immigration reform, a huge overhaul, which we're probably never going to have for all kinds of political reasons that are too numerous to get into right now, because it's already almost the top of the hour. But I do wonder, I mean, is there more that the Biden administration can be doing as far as work authorizations? Is there something Biden can do by executive order? In the state letter Tuesday, Gay also wrote, quote, moreover, the city's failure to inform the state of critical incidents that have occurred in shelters outside of the city has compounded these difficulties, unquote. The bulk of the state's response was concentrated on what Albany has granted to City Hall to shelter and care for newcomers from the U.S.-Mexico border. The newest state-run and state-funded emergency housing complex on the parking lot of the Creedmoor Psychiatric Center in Queens opened to migrant men Tuesday afternoon. The letter also stressed an argument Hochul has made verbally, that the state doesn't believe the law requiring shelter for those who need it applies beyond the 5 boroughs. Yeah, that's an interesting disagreement that I wasn't aware of. I knew that the city had a right to shelter law, but again, I thought it was for the city. The public defenders and housing advocates who want an emergency hearing on the right to shelter law after migrants were forced to sleep on the streets earlier this month in Midtown Manhattan urged the sides to come together. Members of the Legal Aid Society and Coalition for the Homeless said in a statement, quote, at this consequential time, we need both the state and the city, along with assistance from the Biden administration, to work together constructively and in good faith, unquote. Well, that's obvious because they're currently failing at this, and they need to get it together. And again, there's plenty of blame to go around. And just to be clear, I don't want to be misunderstood. I maintain my position that I don't agree with, again, without telling the migrants where they're going and without telling the people who are going to have to take care of them when they get there that they're coming. I don't agree with taking people for what I believe is a cheap political stunt and putting them on buses and sending them away, or sending them to, dumping them off in front of Vice President Kamala Harris's home, things like that. I don't agree with any of that. I'm very disturbed by it, actually. But I will say they do need to get their act together in New York. Regardless of how the problem is created, regardless of what the causes are, this isn't a good look. And Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul and President Joe Biden, I think they should all get in a room together and figure something out here. And, they can just continue to blame the governors who are sending the people, but just blaming them. And I'm not saying they're not to blame, but it's more complex than that. There's a lot of blame to go around amongst both parties. We need comprehensive immigration reform in this country, for one thing. I mean, really comprehensive. We need a complete overhaul. And like I said, we've never really gotten it. We never really will, probably. And there's plenty of blame to go around for that. Welcome back, everybody. Let's see. Yeah, not sure. So that was, we just played the song Freedom Wagon by our guests, Goose Spread. They did confirm, actually, for today that they were going to be on, but they're not here. They're Skyping in. So when that happens, it's usually because there's some sort of a Skype issue. We know that they know that they're supposed to be on because they did confirm with Jenny. So hopefully they get that figured out, or maybe they can call in instead. So if that doesn't happen today, that's fine. We've got plenty to talk about, but our guest Goose Spread at the moment is MIA. Unless, now they are from Ohio, and Melanie did make a comment in the Facebook live chat saying, I don't know, can a state Jim Jordan lives in be considered great? Now, maybe they saw that and were offended, Melanie, thought that you were putting down their great state of Ohio. I don't know. I've been through Ohio because Ohio, it's the kind of state you can say, yeah, I've driven through there. And, or at least I can say that. And it seemed lovely enough. But anyway, so we'll see if they make it. They do. If they're having a technical issue, we might have to reschedule them, and that's fine. Melanie says, I'm not taking it back. Nor should you, Melanie. I understand. I also find Jim Jordan to be quite despicable. So I will join you in that. But we have to separate. We have to be able to separate politics and music. So anyway, but yeah, that song is Freedom Wagon from the acoustic duo Goose Spread. So we'll see if they make it. If not, we can always reschedule. But in the meantime, the studio line is open, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. By the way, did I do it again? I think I just did it again. Did I say Comcast Channel 97 instead of Channel 6? I think I did. It's Channel 6 now, which is great. That's a big upgrade. Yes, if I said 97, just forget that I said that. That's the old, I'm living in the past. No, the time is now. Channel 6 on Comcast here in Manchester. Miriam Banish says in the chat room, what's high in the middle and round on the ends? It's Ohio. I get it. I think. It's high in the middle and yes, I get it. Miriam says, I got that from Devo, who are from Ohio. I didn't know Devo was from Ohio. Well, now Ohio has been redeemed. So what do you think of that, Melanie? Devo is from Ohio. Great band. And they wore those funny hats. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. My friends, this might come as a tremendous shock to you, but I do love a good leaked memo. And apparently, this is from thehill.com, and this has an interesting twist, though. A leaked memo urges Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida to take a sledgehammer to Ramaswamy at the debate. Yes. What debate, you may ask? Well, just because Trump isn't going to be there doesn't mean it doesn't count. There's a debate coming up next week on Wednesday, I believe. Less than a week away now in Milwaukee, which is odd in a sense. You would think it would be in Iowa. Iowa's the first in the nation contest, right? The first caucus. But no, it will be in Milwaukee. There is still some speculation over whether Donald Trump will be there, the former president, 45th president. You might be familiar with him. He's been in the news a bit. There is some speculation about that, but I am sticking to my prediction that he absolutely will not be there, and he has no reason to be there. He's going to be the nominee no matter what. These indictments, 4 indictments, by the way, there might be a 5th coming, believe it or not, Arizona, but we'll see. But, all these indictments, of course, they help him. They help him to easily cruise to the nomination. They won't help him in the general election, but they'll certainly help him in the nomination. He has no reason to be there. There's no reason for him to show up. He's going to win Iowa. He's going to win New Hampshire. He'll then win South Carolina, and he'll have this whole thing locked up pretty quick as far as the nomination. But let's look at this leaked memo here. This is fun. I like this kind of stuff. This is from thehill.com. A leaked debate memo drafted by the heads of the pro-Ron DeSantis super PAC Never Back Down details how they think the Florida governor should attack businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. And by the way, it is Vivek. I know that because I saw him interviewed on another show where the host actually pronounced it Vivek, not Vivek, Vivek, and Vivek thanked him for pronouncing his name correctly. Calling for DeSantis to, quote, take a sledgehammer to his GOP rival. Now, upon first hearing this, first of all, I don't appreciate the violent imagery of that, but I do appreciate the song Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, but I don't understand why bother? Who cares? Vivek is not a threat to anybody. He's not going to be the nominee. But none of these people are going to be the nominee. I mean, that's a funny thing, right? None of these people are going to be the nominee. It's going to be Trump. That's not an opinion. That's not a theory. That's not speculation. It's a fact. It is a fact. Trump will be the nominee. That's why I refer to him as the presumptive nominee. But why is this, why is their advice to DeSantis he has to go after, specifically after Vivek Ramaswamy? I don't understand. The memo urged DeSantis to take a sledgehammer to Ramaswamy by calling him Fake Vivek or Vivek the Fake. It's like Dr. Seuss. I'm not, by the way, this is not satire. Just so we're all clear. This is real. This is happening. This is actual advice. Somebody got paid to give Ron DeSantis this kind of advice. Oh yeah, people get paid to come up with ideas like this. This is how you should attack Vivek. Call him Fake Vivek or Vivek the Fake. Why would you even tell Ron DeSantis? Does DeSantis have a history of giving people nicknames? There's only one person I can think of in the current field of Republican candidates who has a history of giving people nicknames. And that's Mr. Trump, who, while I'm not a fan of Mr. Trump, as many of you know, or probably all of you know, if you've even listened to 5 minutes of the show, I will say this. He's got a few redeeming qualities. One of them is he comes up with some pretty good nicknames. I liked when he called Ron DeSantis Tiny D. You know, he also calls him Ron DeSanctimonious, which is a little cumbersome. He calls him Ron DeSanctus for short. It's a little weird, but Tiny D, I think, is a great nickname. Unfortunately, that's not the one that seems to have caught on, Tiny D. But although I bet it's the one that hurts the most. Anyway, but why is this the advice that they're giving DeSantis? To go after Vivek? All of a sudden I stutter when I say his name. Did you hear that just now? Vivek? You know what it is. I'm not used to saying Vivek. You know, you grow up in a state like New Hampshire, you're not used to names like Vivek. It's an unusual name. Most people don't even say it correctly. But see, I go the extra mile. I say it correctly. It's not Vivek. Anyway, additionally, the memo called on the governor to defend former President Trump should former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie attack Trump. Yes, make sure you... Okay, so we have two pieces of advice here that we now know that the DeSantis campaign actually spent money on. One is to come up with dumb nicknames for Vivek Ramaswamy, and two, to defend Trump. You don't have to tell Ron DeSantis to defend Trump. You don't have to tell any of these people to defend Trump, with the exception of if you really wanted Chris Christie or Asa Hutchinson or Will Hurd to defend Trump. You might have to tell them because they're the only ones who are predisposed to actually criticizing him. Ron DeSantis, you don't have to tell Ron DeSantis to defend Trump. He will do it. He'll just do it on his own. It's like telling someone, hey, make sure you breathe. You know, he can't help himself. The memo, we have actual verbiage from the memo. The memo reads, according to an article in the New York Times, quote, defend Trump when Chris Christie attacks him, unquote. Oh, I know what it is. That'll help DeSantis really distinguish himself from the rest of the field, right? Okay. The memo also reportedly includes a suggested line for DeSantis to use on Christie. Quote, Trump isn't here, so let's just leave him alone. He's too weak to defend himself here. We're all running against him. I don't think we want to join forces with someone on the stage who's auditioning for a show on MSNBC. Governor, we have this great idea. This is how you can really put Chris Christie in his place. We want you to defend Trump, but we also want you to call him weak. But we want you to say, here's exactly what we want you to say. And and by the way, the great thing about you, Governor DeSantis, is you'll be able to say this. You'll be able to pull this off without it sounding the slightest bit rehearsed. It'll just roll off your tongue. Repeat the whole thing. Trump isn't here, so let's just leave him alone. He's too weak to defend himself here. We're all running against him. I don't think we want to join forces with someone on the stage who's auditioning for a show on MSNBC. Oh, my God. Yeah, that'll work. The Hill reached out to Never Back Down and the DeSantis campaign for comment. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott is also referenced numerous times in the documents, which would suggest the super PAC is zeroed in on the threat of Ramaswamy, Scott, and Christie gaining momentum. By the way, before we go any further with this, can we just, really kind of take this in for a minute? This is all, what is even the point of any of this, if you think about it? Again, I honestly, call off the primary. It's going to be Trump. You're all just, it's like that line from the song Nowhere Fast by Meatloaf. They're all fighting for the chance to be last. None of this matters. It's all for nothing. Why are these people even running? DeSantis isn't running for, he knows he's not going to be the nominee. DeSantis isn't running for 2024. He's actually running for 2028. Tim Scott, he's running for vice president. Vivek, he's running for vice president. Nikki Haley, she's running for president in 2028. This is a test run. Anyway. Okay. So Tim Scott is also referenced. One Republican strategist told The Hill, quote, "They have to worry about the rest of the field catching up, preparing for the long haul in case something happens to Trump. And the memo for the debate basically makes this point," unquote. So I guess the idea from the super PAC, their idea is, okay, we just got to have somebody ready. Somebody's going to have to be ready in case Trump falters. And that somebody will be DeSantis. Because this is the super PAC working with DeSantis. The other problem is, it's not going to be DeSantis. If something does happen to Trump, it's not going to be DeSantis. I think it's going to be Tim Scott. Personally, that's whoever it is will have to be Trump light. So it's not going to be Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson, or Will Hurd. It's not going to be one of them. It's going to have to be somebody that can appeal to that Trump base, somebody who's been very nice to Trump and has avoided criticizing him. And I think Tim Scott could be the guy. All right. Internal polling that was also posted in the same trove of documents reportedly shows Ramaswamy surging in New Hampshire. Is that true? I haven't looked at polls here. Public polling also suggests Ramaswamy has been creeping up in the polls. According to the Real Clear Politics polling average, DeSantis comes in second place at 14.8%, and Ramaswamy clocks in at third at 6.9%. Ramaswamy responded to news of the leaked memo on Thursday, today, in a tweet referring to DeSantis as Robot Ron. Boy, the catchy nicknames are just flying around, aren't they? Ramaswamy tweeted this. I'm still going to say tweet. I don't care that it's X now. I'm still going to say tweeted. What else am I going to say? X? He posted an X? Another boring establishment attack from Super PAC creation Robot Ron, who is literally taking lame pre-programmed attack lines against me for next week's debate. Hammer Ramaswamy, unquote. He's giving himself a nickname, Hammer Ramaswamy. Oh no, that's a paraphrase of what the advice was. Meanwhile, the pro-Christie super PAC Tell It Like It Is appeared to troll news of the leaked memo by releasing their memo that read, quote, "Be yourself and tell it like it is," unquote. By the way, the "be yourself" might be a reference to apparently. And again, I don't have a lot of positive things to say about the former president, Donald Trump, but I will say this. I appreciated this. Apparently, in Iowa during the state fair, they trolled DeSantis by flying a plane with a banner that said, Be likable, Ron. And I thought that was funny. Okay. It is not unusual for PACs to telegraph strategy and memos given that they are legally not allowed to coordinate directly with political campaigns. However, it is unusual that the trove of documents was publicly posted to the firm working for the PAC. The development is yet another negative headline for DeSantis, who has been in the midst of a campaign reset. The campaign has seen 2 rounds of layoffs and a new campaign manager in recent weeks, and polling continues to look less favorable for the Florida governor. A Quinnipiac University poll released yesterday showed the Florida governor's support in the GOP primary poll slipping to its lowest level this year. Okay, so that's the story on the leaked memo from the Hill. And then I just saw this pop up on Mediaite. Oh, Melanie said in the chat room, stop saying regarding Trump and the inevitability of him. Melanie said, stop saying that. Maybe everyone will suddenly come to their senses and not vote for that asshat. No, that's not going to happen, Melanie. I appreciate your optimism. Let's see. So then I see this show up on Mediaite. Trump booster Elise Stefanik uses DeSantis debate memo to pressure the Florida governor to drop out of the presidential race. It says here, Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican of New York. And the last time we really heard about her a lot in the news was, of course, when she replaced Liz Cheney in leadership, even though Stefanik historically, and going by her voting record, much more moderate than Liz Cheney, but she is a Trump supporter, so Stefanik is. So they got Liz Cheney out and they got Stefanik in. Okay, Elise Stefanik, the House GOP conference chair, reacted to the news today of a memo from the pro-DeSantis PAC appearing online that advised the Florida governor to defend Trump during the upcoming primary debate. Stefanik wrote while sharing the story from the New York Times, quote, as a former debate prepper, the first and most obvious rule of debate prep is don't leak the debate prep memo, unquote. Seems that does seem obvious. I wouldn't think that would even need to be an obvious rule. Shouldn't be a rule at all. It should just be obvious. Notably, the memo was not leaked. By the way, in reading that quote, because I didn't pre-read this, I thought she was going to say, I thought where she was going with that was the most obvious. The first rule is in debate prep, don't defend or compliment your opponents. In other words, don't defend. If you're Trump's political opponent, you should not be defending him. But DeSantis, DeSantis will occasionally faintly criticize Trump, but it's usually only in response to something Trump says about DeSantis. But for the most part, he sticks up for him. Okay. Notably, the memo was not leaked, but posted online by a website affiliated with the Never Back Down PAC's chief strategist. PACs are not allowed to directly coordinate with their candidate and sometimes will post information publicly online as an indirect way of getting it to the campaign. Stefanik said, quote, this is absolute malpractice. And as I have said from the very beginning, President Trump is going to steamroll the entire field. There is no real primary, and we need to focus on defeating Joe Biden to save America, unquote. Heavily suggesting Ron DeSantis and other GOP presidential candidates should clear the field for Trump. Well, that will solve itself. Don't worry. The Times reported today that the documents included 4 basic must-dos for DeSantis, who is referred to in the memo as GRD at the debate. Why is he GRD? Oh, Governor Ron DeSantis. I see GRD in all caps, and I thought it was like some sort of disease or something. Like, this winter we got to worry about COVID, the flu, RSV, and GRD, which is really bad. A lot of people in Florida end up with GRD. It's very uncomfortable. Okay, so here are the 4 basic must-dos. Oh, this ought to be good. Must-do number 1, attack Joe Biden and the media 3 to 5 times. Okay. Now, by the way, it might sound odd that there's a precise range of numbers 3 to 5 times, but remember, in these debates, when you've got a whole stage full of candidates, and we don't know how many candidates are going to actually qualify, there's a minimum number of signatures you have to have. I think there's a minimum donations amount you have to have, and you have to sign the pledge. You have to sign the pledge that you will support the eventual nominee, no matter who it is. By the way, Trump apparently refuses to sign the pledge. So if the RNC sticks to their rules, Trump can't be there anyway because he refuses to sign the pledge. But because you have so many people on the stage, the amount of time that everyone gets to talk is actually very limited. If you remember, in 2016, they had so many candidates in the field on the Republican side, they actually had to split the debates. So they had like a main stage and an opening act, or they had, I think of it this way, they had the adults table and the kids table. You know, the adults table would usually be in prime time, and the kids table would be like before that, but on the same day. So you had the less likely candidates, you know, to actually get anywhere, the ones that are, you know, sitting at 1% in the polls during the kids table debate. And then at the adults table, you had Trump and Christie and Rubio and who else? Lots of people. They had so many candidates. Miriam says, Biden made me LOL. I greatly prefer him over Trump, but won't be able to not think of him as Biden. I'm sorry if I've ruined him for you, and now you'll think of him as Biden always, Miriam. But Miriam says she thought GRD was esophageal. See, esophagus, in your esophagus. Esophageal? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. Well, that would be GERD. But yeah, that's what I thought it was when I first looked at it, though, when I saw GRD. Okay, so number one, attack Joe Biden and the media 3 to 5 times. And the media, yes, make sure you get in something about the liberal media with their woke agenda. Must do number 2, according to the memo. State GRD's positive vision 2 to 3 times. Does he have a positive vision? What is his vision? I guess stomping out wokeness. And that's all DeSantis ever talks about. Number 3, hammer Vivek Ramaswamy in a response. And number 4, defend Donald Trump in absentia in response to Chris Christie's attack. So those are the 4 must-dos. The memo even goes so far as to offer DeSantis some specific lines. And the big line, that was already in the other article. But yeah, so Elise Stefanik is using this to try to pressure DeSantis to get out. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But that will be, so that's coming right up. Can you believe it? We're already less than a week away. We're already less than a week away from the first Republican debate of the 2024 cycle. Let's see. I should take a moment before we go on to the next thing. Just remind you about tomorrow's show. So we've got a great show planned for you tomorrow. If you're just tuning in, of course, this is Matt Connarton Unleashed, live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in downtown Manchester, Manchester, New Hampshire. So tomorrow on the show, so we've got a couple things going on. Of course, we have Eric Pilcher's classic film review, as we do every Friday. And this week, the subject is The French Connection, which was directed by William Friedkin, who passed away recently. He also directed The Exorcist. And we will also have the world radio premiere of the new single from the band House Lights. Actually, the full album comes out September 1st. But they've got a new single tomorrow, and then on Monday they're going to come in and actually perform live in studio in the second hour. Come in and perform acoustic. So that will be a lot of fun. So that's all happening tomorrow, and then on Monday, of course, we will have Yeah, so on Monday they'll be here, but tomorrow we'll have the world radio premiere of the newest single from them and the film review. And I believe tomorrow also our friend Easy G is going to be with us and via phone for an entertainment report as well. So we are going to have a very, very busy show tomorrow. I think we should probably touch on in Georgia what has happened with the grand jury, members of the grand jury who voted to indict Trump. Their information, they've been doxxed, and apparently it's legal in that their names being published. Yeah, this is we have something about this here from The Independent. So it's interesting. I am a big fan generally of transparency, which is the purpose of this law. The law in Georgia is that the names of the grand jurors be released. And I'm generally a kind of a transparency hawk. I like a lot of transparency. However, in this particular instance, these people's lives may have been put in danger. So I don't think that this particular law is a good one. Sorry for the awkward pause. I just realized my computer is not plugged in, and I need it to for this story I have pulled up here from the Independent. But what is happening in Georgia now, since this grand jury indictment was handed up, is all the names, and obviously we're not going to say any of them here, but all the names of the people on that grand jury have been released publicly. And that's the law. It's not even an option. Legally, it is required. And what is happening now is their lives are being threatened. The Independent has a story up. Truth Social users are doxing grand jurors who indicted Trump in Georgia. A plethora of Truth Social users came to Trump's defense following his fourth indictment. Actually, somebody else had an updated story. I think it was NBC News. But, we've got all kinds of, the judges, like Judge Chutkan is getting death threats. It's not good. And I'm not sure exactly what the solution is, other than everyone has to have more security. But we're living in times. Oh, here we go. We'll go with the Mediaite story. We're living in times that we've never seen in my lifetime with all that's going on now. Judges getting death threats and other people in the who work in the criminal justice system getting death threats. That is not in and of itself something new, certainly. But I don't think we've ever seen it like this. And it's really, it's scary and it's pretty upsetting. We'll go with this. Trump supporters are doxing Georgia grand juries online. This is from Mediaite. MSNBC reported yesterday that supporters of Donald Trump are doxing the grand jurors who indicted him and 18 co-conspirators on charges they tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Katie Tur, anchor on MSNBC, said, quote, "Let's talk about what's happening in Fulton County. We just got word that there are Trump supporters posting the grand jurors' addresses online. Security has already been ramped up there. It's been ramped up from the DA. How is this likely to affect things?" Senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett said, quote, "Certainly it's something that Fani Willis has been concerned about. She has put everybody on notice in sort of an unusual way, sort of telegraphing when this indictment, if any, was going to come down because she was so worried about security. A lot of times we never know grand jurors' names, but Georgia law is different. It was trying to be more transparent, perhaps not appreciating that in a case like this is what happens. And so now that their names are out there and people are calling on doxing their houses and harassing them, it's certainly an unfortunate occurrence. But the court can do anything about that, and anyone who makes threats or does something criminal can be prosecuted for that," unquote. Yeah, there is such a thing as criminal threatening. So this is a serious offense if you do this, but They had to have known this. They had to have seen this coming, though. So I wonder if there is something that could have, an exception that could have been made somehow. NBC News reported that the names and addresses were posted on a fringe website that often features violent rhetoric, adding MSNBC News is choosing not to name the website to avoid further spreading the information, unquote. The information was first spotted by nonpartisan research group Advanced Democracy, Inc., NBC News reported. On Monday, Willis began presenting her case to the grand jury, which only meets on Mondays and Tuesdays. Okay, so we know about that already. But that is a little bit... oh, what's this? Something new regarding Bill Barr? We'll have to look at this. But that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But, remember, in Georgia, what are their names? Their names escape me now. Oh, Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Shay Moss, they testified before Congress about the danger that they were put in, just by having their names put out there and being labeled as quote unquote vote scammers. So, these things have consequences. This just popped up on Mediaite. Trump warns Fox News to start, quote, putting the right people on air or else they will never recover, unquote, in Bill Barr rage post. This just showed up. I don't know what this is about, but I'm awfully curious. It says here, former President Donald Trump went after Fox News in a Thursday rant on Truth Social for giving airtime to his former Attorney General, Bill Barr, who indicated recently he would be willing to testify against Trump. Barr routinely criticizes the former president over his actions to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Moreover, Barr noted that he would be willing to testify against his former boss if called by prosecutors in Trump's criminal trials in D.C. and Georgia. That's a typo. I think they meant trials. The four-time indicted Republican frontrunner turned his attention toward Fox News for giving so much airtime to former AG, now critic. Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "Why does Fox News constantly put on slow-thinking and lethargic Bill Barr, who didn't have the courage or stamina to fight the radical left lunatics while he was AG, and who, even more importantly, refused to fight election fraud? He knew what was going on. Just look at his past remarks. Unless Fox News starts putting the right people on, their ratings will never recover." And of course, the word ratings is capitalized for no apparent reason. He later added, quote, "His bravado changed rapidly because he didn't want to be impeached. Republicans have to be much tougher and smarter, or you won't have a party or a country left. Barr didn't have the courage or stamina to fight, but he knew what was happening. I canned him and felt really good about it. Now he goes all over the place, especially Fox, pretending to be a tough guy," unquote. All right, so there you go. Trump very unhappy with Bill Barr. All right, we should talk about Arkansas, because, boy, how often in your life do you ever say that? We should talk about Arkansas, huh? Well, there's a story that connects to something that we discussed earlier in the week, which led to a pretty contentious moment on the show. So we'll look at this as we approach the end of the show, though. But let me just give the studio line give that out one more time. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. Oh, and don't forget, tonight is trivia night at the Hop Knot, as they do every Thursday night. Make sure you call ahead to reserve a spot. It's a very popular feature there, and that does fill up quickly. All right, Arkansas, what's going on there? Well, thehill.com is reporting Arkansas joins Florida in nixing AP African American Studies. There's a trend here, my friends, in school systems in certain states where they seem to be, I guess it's part of that whole anti-woke movement, but I don't know what else could be the reason for doing this. But the current governor of Arkansas, of course, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, not the first Huckabee, of course, to be the governor of Arkansas. Her father, of course, one of the more famous former governors of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, and, of course, another famous former governor of Arkansas, and also a former president, William Jefferson Clinton. So they've had a couple of other notable governors. But here's what's going on. Arkansas is joining Florida in nixing the Advanced Placement AP African American Studies course from its schools. The state announced right before classes began for the 2023-2024 school year that AP African American Studies would not count for credit toward high school graduation. The College Board, the organization that administers the AP program, said, quote, "On this first day of school, we share in the surprise, confusion, and disappointment at this new guidance that the course won't count toward graduation credits or weighted the same as other AP courses offered in the state," unquote. The news of the course getting dropped by the state was first reported by the Arkansas Times over the weekend. The Arkansas Department of Education released a statement Monday saying the course is still in the pilot stage and cannot be accepted until revisions are finalized. Oh, revisions. I wonder what those revisions might be. Probably something like they did in Florida. Got to include something. If you're going to teach about slavery, might want to mention some of the perks that go along with it, right? Is that what's going on here? That's my theory. Let's see. The department said in a statement to Education Week, quote, "The AP African American Studies pilot course is not a history course and is a pilot that is still undergoing major revisions. Arkansas law contains provisions regarding prohibited topics. Without clarity, we cannot approve a pilot that may unintentionally put a teacher at risk of violating Arkansas law," unquote. What is going on here? Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders ordered curriculum to be reviewed at the beginning of this year after the state banned critical race theory, an academic framework evaluating U.S. history through the lens of racism that has become a political catch-all buzzword for any race-related teaching, including a review of AP African American Studies that was in 2 school districts in the state last year. The College Board said in a statement, quote, "More than 200 colleges and universities nationally have already signed on to provide college credit, including the University of Arkansas Fayetteville, the flagship institution of the University of Arkansas system. Early credit support for the pilot course has surpassed expectations, and it is our strong expectation that many more colleges will provide credit with an official review when an official review is completed in the spring," unquote. The College Board underwent a similar battle over AP African American Studies with Florida earlier this year. That ended with Florida banning the course and the company apologizing for changes it made to the class after Florida's initial complaints. Advocacy groups are already decrying Arkansas's move to ban the course. NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson said, quote, "Another day in America and another extremist state government has waged war on Black America while attempting to rewrite history. It is abhorrent that any so-called leader would attempt to strip high school students of an opportunity to get a jump start on their college degree. Let's be clear. The continued state-level attacks on Black history are undemocratic and regressive. The sad reality is that these politicians are determined to neglect our nation's youth in service of their own political agendas," unquote. So that, my friends, is what's going on this week in Arkansas. And I don't know that that will be the end. Let's see. Oh, we still have a little bit of show left. If you'd like to get in with a call, 603-250-6007. 603-250-6007. Another media story that I would have liked to have gotten Eric's thoughts on yesterday during our segment, but we didn't get to it. And this happened a number of days ago, and I've been wanting to get to it on the show, but a Kansas police and a small newspaper are at the center of a First Amendment fight after a newsroom raid. And this will be the second time on the show today that the First Amendment has come up in conversation. My favorite amendment. I don't know about you. This is from the AP, Associated Press. If you haven't heard this story, and it's gotten some media play, but this is important. A small newspaper and a police department in Kansas are at the center of a dispute over freedom of speech as the newspaper struggled Monday to publish its next edition days after police raided its office and the home of its owner and publisher. Officials with the Marion Police Department confiscated computers and cell phones from the publisher and staff of the Marion County Record in Friday's raid. On Monday, Kansas state authorities confirmed they are also involved in a criminal probe of the newspaper over allegations that it illegally obtained and used personal information about a local business owner. Friday's raids have been widely condemned by press freedom watchdogs as a blatant violation of the U.S. Constitution's protection for a free press. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly called the raids concerning. An attorney for the newspaper deemed the searches and seizures illegal and said that the police department's action, quote, offends the constitutional protections the founding fathers gave the free press, unquote. The Society of Professional Journalists pledged $20,000 toward the newspaper's legal defense, but some Marion residents hold a different view, accusing the newspaper of aggressive news coverage that has driven out businesses and painted a negative picture of the town of about 1,900 people. By the way, apropos of nothing having to do with the substance of the story, not only is that the second time in today's show that the First Amendment has come up, that's the second time in today's show. This is weird. That's the second time in today's show that the number 1,900 has come up. What are the odds of that? For real. If you remember, the other media story that I talked about in the first hour today was Glenn Beck having 1,900 episodes of his show suddenly removed without explanation from Apple Podcasts. 1,900 episodes. 1,900 people in this town of Marion, Kansas. That's weird. I mean, if I were a numerologist and I believed in that stuff, I'd be like, ooh, Matt, that's the universe sending you a sign about 1,900 something. Somebody's about to Venmo you $1,900 or something, you know? But which would be nice. If anyone wants to Venmo me $1,900, you certainly can. But no, that is weird though, isn't it? What are the odds of that number specifically? You know, it's not like it's a number that you expect to run into, like, the number 10, that showed up earlier in the show and it's showing up again. If you didn't hear earlier in the show, the first news story that I talked about today had the number 1,900 in it. That is actually very bizarre. Should we end on something fun? Or should we end on... Oh. No, we'll have to save that. We'll save that. Ryan Grimm has a story in The Intercept called A Leaked Cable and What It Reveals About the Biden Administration's Foreign Policy, but that's too much to get into now because we're almost out of time. All right, let's do something quick and fun. You know Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy? You might have heard of him. Excuse me. Mediaite has a story up. No. Watch Mike Lindell scramble to recover after tech snafu derails the start of his Election Crime Bureau Summit. Yes, that was his newest event, Election Crime Bureau Summit. Oh, yes. Trump on Monday, by the way, is going to be giving a big presentation, apparently. I'm sure his lawyers are all just ready to walk off a cliff, proving that the election was stolen in Georgia, Well, Mike Lindell also still at it with this Election Crime Bureau Summit. And apparently he freaked out during a tech snafu, which we have, I think we have the audio of it actually, but Ron is on the line. So let's grab this call from Ron. Hi, Ron.
How you doing? Quick and funny. By the way, good show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Did you catch that woman? I think she was from Massachusetts. She was called for jury duty, and she tried to get out of it. She said, and she gave every reason why she couldn't get it. Go. She had 3 triplets, all under 2-year-old, plus, somewhere around that age. And she brought them to court with her. I don't know if you caught that in the news. It was pretty cool. And the cameras just ate it up, the kids were just living it up, having a blast. So that was in yesterday's news. I don't know if you happened to see it.
I did not see that, so I assume she got out of jury duty?
Yeah, well, she showed up to court, and things were going, and the judge at that point just said, okay, I understand, and dismissed it. But, she put the kids in the car, brought them to court, brought them inside in their little strollers, and sat them all down, and the kids were just raising Cain.
Huh. Oh, very cool. Well, I will have to look that up.
Yeah, it's cute. You said short and fast and funny. It was cute. If you had seen it, it's real cute.
Yeah. All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate the call.
Hey, one more thing real fast, and I mean really, really fast.
Yeah.
I thought you and the crazy one were on good terms. What happened yesterday? It seemed like he was in the attack mode.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't really talk about him on the show anymore unless he happens to call in. But, yeah, it's just a good old-fashioned rivalry.
Yeah. All right. Well,
You know, those New Yorkers are.
Yeah, with that being said, all right. Good night, and, we'll talk again.
All right, Ron. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Always nice to hear from our friend Ron. All right. Let's play this audio quickly. This is... This is from, I've not pre-listened to this, but it's Mike Lindell. I'm sure there's no bad words in it. Let's see.
This historical election summit is so important that it's being broadcast around the world in 85 languages on frankspeech.com.
Oh, yeah, Frank's speech. That's his thing.
This election summit is not going to be about more evidence. We have enough evidence. Evidence has been the easy part. This summit is all about hope and the plan to secure our elections immediately. I want you to watch this video and see if you all remember this.
They're attacking his power grid.
No, this is the wrong one. This is the wrong one. Hold on. Well, that's coming. The Rose Garden speech.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't that great. Boy, I thought that was going to be a lot funnier. So what they started to show was the time that Mike Lindell was on the Jimmy Kimmel show. Yeah. All right. Well, sorry. Hey, they can't all be winners. Yeah, that one wasn't nearly as entertaining as I thought. Although, if I can find, we could. I still have hope that we might be able to snag him as a My Pillow if he gets desperate enough as a sponsor for the show. Do I have that? Oh, that's not the one I was thinking of. There's an ad on Facebook. Oh, yeah, here it is. Oh. Yeah, this is the ad. If we ever do get My Pillow to be a sponsor, here's the ad we're hopefully going to use.
Have you not been wearing a mask or social distancing? Did you recently attend a Trump rally? Then you or someone close to you is probably laying down. Hi, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor and CEO of My Pillow. No one should underestimate the value of a good rest. And I should know. When I was addicted to crack, passed out on a deserted street during a bender in Mexico, I realized this curb's doing zero favors for my neck. Then after talking directly to God and not myself, My Pillow was born. Years later, after a settlement for deceptive ads and an F from the Better Business Bureau, I'm a multi-millionaire. How? Because America. There's no problem that a pillow can't solve. Freebasing in an alley? You're gonna want my pillow. A woman wants to choose what she can do with her own body? That's gonna need a pillow. Wife left you in an ugly divorce? Use about 8 pillows. And if you vote Trump come November, you can get 2 of my pillows for the price of 2 of my pillows. Call my new number now.
Actually, I suppose if we do ever get him as a sponsor, we'll need to update the ad, but that's, anyway. All right. Well, very good. We are about out of time. So I don't know. Our guest never made it on, but that's okay. We will see about rescheduling. But don't forget, tomorrow we have a big show planned. Not only do we have Eric Pilcher's classic film review, and this week the subject is The French Connection, directed by William Friedkin, but we also have the world radio premiere of the new single from the band House Lights. And Friday is my favorite day here at WMNH. Not only do I do this show, but then I'm back later for Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. And so that will be a lot of fun. If you're listening live on Thursday, of course, immediately following this show on WMNH is Through the Stage Door, hosted by the great Rob Dion. And don't forget to be back bright and early tomorrow morning for the morning show with Peter White. And on Fridays, they do the Love Advice, which is a very popular and entertaining segment on the show. Oh, Mike from Queen City Cabinetry says, and mine as well. Friday is his favorite day of the week as well, because we get to hang out with Mike and DJ Steve and, of course, Paulie C on Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. And it is Thursday, which means don't forget tonight is trivia night at the Hop Knot. Call ahead to reserve your spot. But if you don't get a spot, hey, you can still enjoy some delicious gourmet pretzels and some craft beer. And if you missed any part of today's show, it will be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, mattconnerton.com. And that's it for me for now. I'll talk to y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.